The Israeli Foreign Minister confirms negotiations will begin on second phase of detainee deal. UNRWA Commissioner General warns of potential collapse due to Israeli Knesset laws targeting funding. And the Palestinian National Council denounces brutal treatment and torture of Palestinian detainees in Israeli prisons. It's 4 p.m. Cairo local time, and you're watching Qnews. We begin today's bulletin with the latest developments in Gaza. Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar has confirmed that Israel will initiate negotiations on the second phase of the detainee deal. Israeli media also reported that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will hold a security consultation today. Netanyahu has rejected Hamas' request to link the release of the remaining hostages to ending the war. Israel's cabinet meeting has concluded yesterday without reaching a decision on the second phase of the Gaza agreement. Prime Minister Netanyahu reaffirmed his stance towards or against allowing the Palestinian Authority to govern Gaza, emphasizing his commitment to U.S. President Donald Trump's plan for the territory's future. The Commissioner General of the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian Refugees, the UNRWA, has warned of the agency's potential collapse due to the Israeli Knesset laws targeting its funding. Commissioner Philippe Lazzarini stressed that the agency's dissolution would recreate a dangerous void in providing essential services, posing a threat to regional and global stability.
2 days, our operation in the occupied Palestinian territory will be crippled.
The Palestinian Foreign Minister has condemned Israeli Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich for inciting the demolition of Palestinian homes. The ministry accused the Israeli government of exploiting international inaction to seize more land in the West Bank and called for global intervention to halt Israel's expansionist policies and provide international protection for Palestinians. The Tulkarm Governorate has reported that the Israeli army has threatened to demolish 16 homes in the besieged Tulkarm refugee camp, which has been under siege for 26 days. Additionally, approximately 16,000 Palestinians have been displaced from the Nur Shams and Tulkarm refugee camps in the West Bank. Israeli occupation forces have continued the aggression on the city of Tulkarm and its camp for the 23rd consecutive day, and on Nur Shams camp for the 10th day amidst Israeli escalation. At the same time, the occupation forces continue to close the gate of the Jabra checkpoint at the southern entrance to the city of Tulkarm for the 11th consecutive day, isolating the city from the villages and towns of Al-Kafriyat and the rest of the West Bank governorates. The Palestinian Ministry of Health has announced that the death of a 10-year-old child who succumbed to injuries sustained in an Israeli airstrike on the town of Qabatia, south of Jenin, 2 weeks ago. The attack, carried out by an Israeli drone on February 1st, also killed 2 young men. This brings the total number of Palestinian casualties in Jenin to 26 since the beginning of the ongoing Israeli offensive a month ago. The Israeli peace movement Peace Now has revealed that Israeli authorities have begun construction procedures for 974 new settlement units in the illegal Efrat settlement south of Bethlehem in the occupied West Bank. The movement warned that Netanyahu's government is imposing facts on the ground that threaten prospects for peace. Meanwhile, Mu'ayyid Shaban, head of the Palestinian Colonization and World Resistance Commission, warned that this expansion aims to isolate Bethlehem from Jerusalem as part of Greater Jerusalem plan. The Palestinian National Council has denounced the brutal treatment and torture of Palestinian detainees in Israeli prisons, calling it a retaliatory policy aimed at breaking their spirit and depriving them of basic human rights. The Council emphasized that these violations contradict international conventions, particularly the Fourth Geneva Convention. It urged the international community to take immediate action and called for an independent fact-finding committee to investigate these abuses. U.S. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham has said that there was a very little appetite for the U.S. to take over Gaza in any way, shape or form. Graham, speaking to reporters in Tel Aviv after meeting with Israeli officials as part of a bipartisan U.S. Senate delegation, noted progress on a Middle East peace plan. Democrat Richard Blumenthal added that discussions with Jordan's King Abdullah revealed Arab states could offer Trump a realistic alternative plan.
Bottom line is that no one expects Israel to do.
And for more analysis, we now move to Salma Marwan in our newsroom. To you, Salma.
Thank you, Mona. And for further analysis, we're joined from Ramallah by the political science professor Ayman El-Raqb. Mr. Ayman, thank you so much for joining us on Q News. And let me first start by asking you about the second phase of the detainee exchange. What are the key sticking points left in its negotiations, and how likely is it to impact or how likely is it to succeed?
Greetings to the EU and to the whole audiences. Up till now, we're talking about the keys of the deal of the second phase. The date of the negotiations should the 16th day of the truce, and but the occupation disavowed this and stalled to this moment without reaching an agreement. Therefore, we're talking about a stage that haven't been grown yet, and therefore, we are talking about a suspension of such negotiations in order not to take into effect. Hamas movement showed a great flexibility by releasing a number of the Israeli detainees, and in the meantime, regarding the bodies will be released. And on Saturday, the 6th of Israel will be released, which is a great progress of Hamas movement position. And frankly, that is the way of the occupation to disavowing their commitment in the truce. And so they're trying to reach an agreement and to overcome the obstacles that taken place. Till now, the occupation did not avow of its commitment, and there is a dilemma. And if the if did not send a delegation, so we'll be facing a great standoff. We're talking about now the second phase, while the first phase is suspension. We're talking about the key of the Israeli release in return of the officers of the Palestinian, and the second point is the withdrawal of the Israeli from the Gaza Strip.
Speaking of the obstacles you've mentioned, how does Prime Minister Netanyahu's rejection of linking detainees' release to ending the war impact the overall peace process?
Unfortunately, Netanyahu has no appetite to conclude the deal and disavowed the details of the first phase of the deal. Regarding the commitments of the agreed upon, regarding the delivery of the trucking tents and the mobile homes. So he put in a great obstacle before the agreement, and we expected that they do not commit these conditions. Netanyahu's allies do not wish to have a light in the path of this deal. If this would continue, that would govern the whole deal with failure, which is a very significant matter that should overcome if Netanyahu accepted to address these matters to commit in the face of the first phase of the deal, as Hamas already fulfilled its commitment, and then would be move on to the second phase. So the matters are suspended on the hands of Netanyahu in the possibility to overcome this matter and to reach actual agreement. And we are going to wait if he's going to change this track.
Another important matter that I would like to hammer on and ask you about, what are the potential consequences of Israel's refusal to allow the Palestinian Authority to govern Gaza, and how does this align with US President Donald Trump's plan?
The Israelis, Netanyahu in particular, rejects to hand over the Gaza Strip to the Palestinians. But the Americans up till now never extended the vision. Would they accept the Trump's strategy regarding Gaza and then will agree in a way or another for the Palestinian Authority to govern the Gaza Strip? Up till now, never show an actual desire of such, as well waiting for the Americans to change their strategy and start in reality to agree for the Palestinian Authority to govern Gaza. Up till now, we are talking about, but the mechanism aren't completed. That we are in need for the approval of the agreement, and in the meantime, the approval of the Israelis.
Now, regarding the humanitarian situation, and with UNRWA facing potential collapse due to Israeli legislative measures, what humanitarian consequences could emerge for Palestinian refugees?
Firstly, UNRWA is being established by the international community organization in 1949 to guarantee the return of the Palestinians to their homeland. The occupation attempts, they are trying to end the operations of the UNRWA. In the meantime, the Americans are trying to stop funding it. And therefore, the Israeli citizens are governed along with Jerusalem, so will be extended in the Gaza Strip, and they will affect at large on the future of the agency that will lose the matters regarding the refugees, and I think this would require a support from the Arab countries that sees that international agency that has a great role. So we've already requested directly to finance the agency directly by the United Nations, but the United Nations have rejected this notion. Therefore, we hope to have decisive way for the international agency to be financed by the United Nations, as its budget is a part of the United Nations to mitigate the suffering of the Palestinian people as much as possible.
From Ramallah, that was political science professor Ayman El-Raqb. Thank you so much for joining us here on Q News and for all the information you provided us with. And now we're going to move back to Mona in the studio.
Thank you so much, Salma, for the analysis. And back to our bulletin. The Chinese ambassador to Egypt, Lai Liqiang, has reaffirmed that a two-state solution is the only viable way to break the cycle of conflict between Israel and Palestine. Speaking at the fourth high-level meeting of the Global Alliance for the Implementation of the Two-State Solution in Cairo, Lai, who also serves as China's representative to the Arab League, expressed Beijing's deep concern over the situation in Gaza. Lai emphasized the importance of international efforts to ensure the full and continuous implementation of the ceasefire agreement, stressing that Gaza is an inalienable part of Palestinian territories. He called for any future arrangements regarding Gaza to respect the will of the Palestinian people, adhere to international law, and align with United Nations resolutions. Thousands of Israelis have protested in the streets of Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, demanding the release of 73 detainees still held in Gaza. In Jerusalem, protesters gathered outside Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's residence, chanting slogans demanding the immediate release of all detainees. Some demonstrators chained themselves to a mock cage on the ground, symbolizing the conditions described by those freed from the captivity. Meanwhile, in Tel Aviv, thousands rallied in a central square known as Detainee Square, where family members of those still held in Gaza addressed the crowd. Nearby, outside Israel's defense ministry, scores of demonstrators gathered with the same objective, pressing the government to secure the release of all detainees. The protests in both cities highlighted growing public urgency to bring the captives home. Palestinian business owners have begun returning to the remnants of their once thriving shops in the war-ravaged Jabalia camp in Gaza. Gaza's economy, already crippled by Israeli blockades and one of the world's highest unemployment rates, faced severe challenges even before the current conflict. According to a report by the United Nations Trade and Development Organization released last year, the total cost of physical damage to Gaza's infrastructure from October 7th to January 2024 reached $18.5 billion, equivalent to 7 times Gaza's GDP in 2022. Now we move on to the latest developments in Lebanon.
كل المستهدفين هن مدنيين.
وضع شيء مرعب، شيء بخوف.
The Lebanese presidency has announced its intention to appeal to the United Nations Security Council to enforce Israel's immediate withdrawal from southern Lebanon. Lebanon considers the continued Israeli presence as an occupation and affirms its right to use all means to secure a full withdrawal. The government reiterated its commitment to UN Resolution 1701 and stated that the Lebanese army is prepared to take full security control along the internationally recognized borders. Israeli media has reported that the Israeli army is increasing its troop deployment along the border with Lebanon to 3 times its previous level. The move is aimed at countering Hezbollah's attempt to reposition itself in southern Lebanon. Meanwhile, France has insisted on a complete Israeli withdrawal from southern Lebanon as soon as possible. The Lebanese armed forces have deployed in 11 southern towns and border locations south of the Litani River in coordination with the International Committee. The army has been conducting engineering surveys, clearing roads and disposing of unexploded ordnance, using residents to follow military directives in the area. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz has announced that Israeli forces will remain stationed in 5 buffer zones locations in Lebanon. He stated that the military is committed to ensuring complete security along the northern border and will respond forcefully to any violations by Hezbollah. Villagers in southern Lebanon have prepared to return homes as Israeli army withdraws under a ceasefire agreement. Under a truce deal brokered by Washington in November, Israeli troops were granted 60 days to withdraw from southern Lebanon, where they had waged a ground offensive against Lebanon since early October. That deadline was extended to February 18th, but Israeli and Lebanese officials, as well as foreign diplomats, had anticipated that the military would retain some troops on parts of the Lebanese sides of the border. And now we go to a live broadcast where Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky is meeting with Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan in Ankara. A meeting between the presidents of Ukraine and Turkey has officially begun in Ankara, followed by the signing of an agreement. In a parallel, negotiations between the defense ministers of both countries have also taken place. According to the Turkish President's office, the discussions in Ankara will cover all aspects of the Turkish-Ukrainian strategic partnership, along with steps to strengthen cooperation. The visit will also include an exchange of views on current regional and global issues, including the latest developments in Ukraine.
The importance of our peoples that are in the Qism that struggled for the unity of Ukrainian territories, and I thank Mr. Zelensky in maintaining their right in this. Once again, I wish to thank Mr. President's visit, and we hope that we'll be having a fruitful result for the both countries. Turkey and its president for the warm welcome and kind receptions, and we wish to reaffirm that our ties had become more stronger than before. I thank Mr. President and the Turkish people for their support in Ukraine during the hardship of the war, and we thank them for their support in the past period. And we've talked during the meeting on the necessity of respecting the sovereignty of Ukrainian territories and its integrity, which it has a great regional importance for us. We've already addressed other issues related to the regional affairs. As you all know, that during the past period, during the war that affected large us, and we've addressed the losses and casualties in the war, as well as the reconstruction, renaissance of Ukraine. In addition, I wish to thank Turkey for its initiative to end the ongoing war. And as you know, Ukraine, along with the European Union, and I meant Turkey and England, all of them are very ready to start the establishment of peace and ending the war, along with the United States. As you all know, that this region, the whole world is concerned about. This war to continue in our region to affect the regional countries along with the whole world. So it is necessary to start an initiative of peace, and such reapproachment in the upcoming period will be just. And if the United States are present on the table and Turkey as a mediator, so this reapproachment will be positive. I thank Mr. President Erdogan for his understanding. Through the meetings also, we've addressed the bilateral relations between Turkey and Ukraine, and you know, 2 agreements were signed, several resolutions were made, and this would embody the strength of Ukraine and Turkish ties, and these agreements include the important point, as you know, that the orphan Ukrainians lost their fathers in the ongoing war. These children under the Turkish custody right now, which is a great feature of solidarity expressed by Turkey. As you know, it's such a project in supporting these orphans. And I wish to extend my thanks to Mr. Raib Tayyip Erdogan's First Lady for her great project regarding the orphans. With regard to the bilateral relations, agreements were made in the past between the 2 countries that would embody the deep-rooted ties in the fields of security and economy between the 2 countries. As Mr. President have mentioned, we are going to foster the relations between the 2 countries along with partnerships, and we are going to work to preventing the famine in Africa and the troubled matters taking place in the regions would require cooperation between the 2 countries, and we've already tackled in details the good ties between the 2 countries. I believe that projects related to agreements in the field of education will gain a momentum in the upcoming period. Also, as you know, with regard to the cooperation in the field of culture, we're going to continue to establish the ties between the countries in the field of culture. And within this framework, I'll talk in details in the upcoming period. Once again, I wish to extend Mr. Erdogan's wife in supporting such a project. As you know, the issue of the hostages kept in Russia, we've already tackled this matter, along with the facilitations regarding the prisoners exchange. Unfortunately, we've been exposed in the Russian pressures in the past, several been captured by the Russian side, and several people were captured and abducted in Russia during the past 3 years. These also were the very sincere in loving their country and never commit any dangerous matters. And there are several symbolic matters between Turkey and Ukraine. There is the new chancellor is present along with the Turkish ambassador, or rather the Ukrainian ambassador in Turkey. And we wish to the return of all captives and detainees to return to their homeland, and peace to Ukraine. Thank you, Turkey. To the guest president, thank you. My question for President Erdogan and the president of Ukraine. You've made a meeting today, and you've already tackled the second phase of peace following Munich conference. As you know, the foreign minister stated that will make some hard decisions.
Напевно, на кому